Hey guys, it's me, Quest for Nostalgia, and I hate long intros, so we're just going to jump right into it. This is the games that I beat during 2020. Wow, so 2020 was a crazy year. It really was. It sent a lot of people home from work. Some people were essential, some people weren't, but it was a big change for a lot of people, and it was a really hard year for most. But for me, it was honestly such an amazing gaming year. It was my most influential ever. I played genres that I never had ever thought to play before and really stepped out of comfort zones and just tried so many different games this year that I just really wanted to share this list with you and see if you guys played any of the same games or see if you guys have played those games before. So let's get into this crazy long list. The first game I beat this year was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Gorgeous game. It was my first semi like Soulsborne style game where you had to learn like sword fighting with parrying and things like that. It had a steeper learning curve to the combat system there. I liked the story. I liked the graphics of it. I hated that the collectibles were ponchos though. But yeah, I mean it was still a cool game. Next game I played was Pokemon Fire Red, and that's a remaster of the original Red version, but for Game Boy Advanced. I played with a whole new team that I'd never played with before, and I had a really good time playing it. So then next I ended up playing Soul Silver, which is the remake of Pokemon Silver for the DS. And again, I played with a different team that I played with as a kid and had a great time. I caught all of the legendary Pokemons that were in it, and so it was really fun. And I'm sure my 12-year-old self is going to be pumped that I have caught all of the legendary dogs, all of the legendary birds, and Mewtwo. So good job, from my 12-year-old self. The next one was probably the most pivotal in this year was Red Dead Redemption 2. It was the biggest game that I had played at the time, and it showed me that I could just play the story missions. I could go through, skip all the little side quests, things like that, and get the story in and really still enjoy the game without being bogged down with or being overwhelmed by such a massive game, something that could just be played endlessly almost. So I really appreciate that Red Dead Redemption did that for me, allowing me to realize I can play some of these bigger games and get them done. And also Arthur Morgan, I loved that character so much. I made my morality good, and I had a great ending with it, and it really made you feel for them, and you saw this development of character over time. And I just think that that was a fantastic game. So go try it if you haven't. A fun game that I played this year was Golf with Friends, which was like a mini putt game. I played that with my brother and his friend Scott, and it was funny. It's one of those games where you're raging when you can't get the ball through the clown tongue or whatever, and it's taking you 10 strokes, or like some fan is just constantly hitting you and you want to snap your controller. But yet when it's happening to your brother, or it was happening to Scott, it was the funniest time ever. But unfortunately, me and my brother ended up like mastering the game and just beating the crap out of it. So it wasn't as fun anymore because you just were good at it, and so then those funny times didn't really happen anymore. But it was a good time before we got to that point. The next one I played with Scott as well was Halo Master Chief Collection, but I played Reach on there. I've never played Halo Reach. I played all the other games, but Reach never stood out to me. So playing the remastered version of that with Scott was really fun. We also played with his cousin, and it was a good time. It's a good like couch co-op game. Granted we played online, but it was a good game. Unfortunately, Xbox took it off of the marketplace, off of the Game Pass, so you can still play the Master Chief Collection, but Reach is not in there anymore. Oh well. The next game that I'm going to talk about was actually what kind of kicked off this channel. Unfortunately, my mom's boyfriend passed away this year, and when I was going home for all of that going on, I started pulling out my old consoles, and that's what kind of built this quest for nostalgia. And I pulled out my Nintendo 64, and one of the games that actually still worked was Pokemon Snap. And I ended up beating it that day. It only took like 2 hours. I had a great time like solving the puzzles and using the apples to unlock this door or get a electrode to explode, and was able to finally get pictures of Mew in like the space level. So I had a great time with that, and it really kicked this channel off. So I think that's really cool. Another game that I played this year was Mario Kart 7. I played that on the 3DS. Unbelievably frustrating. I got all gold stars for every speed and the mirror courses and things like that, but I've never been hit by more blue shells in my entire life and wanted to snap that DS in half. Another game that I ended up playing on the 3DS was Star Fox 64. Super short game. It's a classic. Had a great time playing it on 3DS. It controlled super well and it looked awesome in that 3D. This year, I also built a emulator PC, which plays GameCube and below systems like Nintendo 64, Game Boy, things like that as well, just on a computer. And so it opened up a huge library of games. One of those games that I played this year was Paper Mario 64. It was really fun, really cute, but after playing 2 Pokemon games and then playing that one, the system of turn-based where you go, you run into an enemy, it stops, you now take turns hitting each other, and then it goes back into playing, kind of burnt me out. So I kind of lost my, love of that during that game. And on top of that, I just really wanted dialogue. I wanted some voiceovers and things like that and cutscenes because I got so tired of having to just read the text on screen of Mario talking to Peach, talking to a Goomba. So that game, it was a good game, but I would say play Thousand Years Door instead or something. An awesome game that I played on that emulator PC for the Game Boy Advance was Metroid Zero Mission. It was my first Metroidvania game. I loved being able to go explore the map. You got your power-ups like right after you felt like you were stuck. It was super well paced. And so with that, I just had a great time with it, and I definitely need to beat Metroid Fusion this year. A super nostalgic game for me this year that I was able to beat because of that PC was Rugrats. It was Reptar's Rescue or Reptar's Escape, and I played that with my girlfriend and we had a great time. It's something that there was another mini golf game inside of it. It was like the thing that just stuck in my brain, and as soon as it came on, I felt like I knew all of the songs during the mini golf levels because I just played hundreds of hours of that as a kid. And so we ended up beating the whole game, because now that you're an adult, you can understand what puzzles you were stuck on and things like that. So we had a great time. It controlled horribly, but it was an awesome memory to have playing that game with her on the couch when she first came home from work. Tetris was a really big part of 2020 for me. I put a random Tetris game on that PC, and then on YouTube kind of wanted to see like what ways to get better at Tetris. It sparked this thing in me to want to crave a personal best and to keep doing better and better and better. And so I can't tell you the amount of time that I spent playing Tetris. It's just such a good, just brain melting, relaxing game to play. But I enjoyed it and I got really good at Tetris, and I really had a good time trying to get new personal best and things like that. VR was huge for me this year. So during quarantine, I ended up getting a PlayStation 4 and getting VR. And gosh, that sent me down a huge rabbit hole as well. The first game that I ended up beating, and I ended up platinuming that game as well, which is 100%, was Astrobot. Another game that was fantastic to play with my girlfriend. We would take turns going back and forth beating each level. She'd start the level and do the level, and then I'd go back and clean up all the boxes and little people that she missed on there. And so I was able to, complete the whole game, but we got to both experience it. And it was so fun playing in VR. It's like Mario 64, but in virtual reality. And it was just amazing, and she loved it too. Another game that I played this year for VR was Blood and Truth. It came with my VR headset, and it was really, really fun. It's just like an action movie, and it's just a really fun shooter, almost like something that you'd play in an arcade game, but now you're in it, shooting all these people as you kind of go casually through the level, and I had a good time with that. Skyrim VR. That game was so cool. I'm sure you'll see it, and the graphics are just so good. Casting a bow in your hand and using magic there, and then ripping off shots in VR was so much fun. And it was the first time I've ever actually got hooked to Skyrim. I've tried Skyrim on every generation of console, and it never hooked me. VR blew it out the water. I absolutely loved it. Highly, highly recommend playing it in VR. Another game I played was Farpoint. Farpoint was super cool because it's like you're on some crazy planet. There's this group of astronauts that land on that planet out of a rift before you, and you're trying to find them, but you're finding out that the time, like 5 seconds difference between going through that rift is 10s 30 years different, and so you're trying to see if they're still there. It uses a cool plastic gun, and you'll see in that footage what that looks like, but then it turns into the gun that you're holding, and it feels really real to be holding that piece of plastic there with the trigger and everything. That it was fantastic. Another great VR game, Ghost Giant. It was made by a Canadian studio. The music was great. I wish I could put the music in there for you because That was one of my favorite parts. Also with the loading screen, where you get to use your little fingers and it has these light trails and things like that, was super fun while you're waiting for levels to load, just playing with your fingers and just having the, little stream of light coming through there. But it was a beautiful game. It touched on things about depression, and oh my gosh, the art and the music was just chef's kiss. So good. Until Dawn was a really funny game, super scary. You're on a like theme park ride, and it's like a shoot 'em up. You're going through and shooting different things, and it gets really scary. The first one was like kind of like, shooting ducks in carnival games, but then the other ones just get absolutely crazy and awesome game. Psychonauts VR was really, really cool. I love Psychonauts. It's one of my favorite games. I bought a collector's edition for that as well, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. But they had a VR game which was really short, but it was almost like an escape room where you use psychic powers to kind of solve these escape rooms and get out of there, and you transition between different people's minds, and it was a really good game. I loved the art of that as well. Another huge change in my gaming was racing simulation. So I've always played racing simulation games, but I never had a wheel and I never had, a racing rig or anything like that. Well, this year I ended up building this car seat racing rig here, and with VR was able to do Gran Turismo Sport in VR, and then also I started playing F1 2020. And so these two games, I'll put both of the clips together here, but I ended up completing fully. I did all of the races and maxed out my seasons, learned how to drive, manual on these and do way more in-depth racing with it, and just had a blast driving this year in those two games. The second to last VR game that I'm going to talk about today is Trover Saves the Universe, and that game is absolutely hilarious. It's made by the people who did Rick and Morty, and it's exactly all of that humor, all of the same voices, and it's got a really cool art style. It played like Astrobot, but yet way more adult, and it was just a blast. It was super funny, so much dialogue. I can't imagine the amount of dialogue hours that there is sitting on that desk, because it felt like that they were never stopping talking. So here's another big change for me. I said this is an influential year because I played so many genres that I never really crazy got into, and the Resident Evils are one of them. Well, this year I played Resident Evil 7 in VR, which was terrifying. If you haven't seen my video about me getting crazy scared, it's on YouTube here. It's called My Soul Left My Body, and it's me screaming because the game is so terrifying. It was so scary. Well, I did that for a Halloween stream and then just kept playing it. The puzzles were fun, and then I ended up getting addicted to it. So then I ended up turning around and playing Resident Evil 2. And so Resident Evil 2, the remake, was gorgeous. I had so much fun, and people like the originals and things like that, but I loved that I didn't have to worry so much about inventory management anymore, and that I could save more. I had a great time with it. The puzzles were still fun, and the graphics were absolutely amazing, and it's made me a huge Resident Evil fan now. Horizon Zero Dawn is one of those PlayStation exclusives that I had heard tons about, but had been on Xbox forever, and then now have switched to PlayStation. And people love Horizon Zero Dawn. It was gorgeous. The story was fantastic, but the gameplay didn't do for me. It did not hook me like everybody else, says and hypes it up to be. But I still do think it was a good game. It just was maybe a little overhyped for that. Then I also played another PlayStation exclusive that I had never been able to play before, which was Uncharted 1, and I had a good time with that. The Uncharted 1 was a little repetitive, and it's just a cover shooter, and there wasn't really much to stand out, but maybe playing it on the PlayStation 3, years and years ago, it would have been a different story, but now with the games that we have, it just didn't stand out. Now, we talked about overhyped PlayStation exclusives, and one of those that I was super worried about was Spider-Man. And Spider-Man was fantastic. I loved it so much. I platinumed that game as well. Got everything 100% on there. And I loved using the comic book skin on there, the comic book suit. I just thought it looked so cool. It made the world look super detailed against the stark contrast of the comic book. And then as soon as I finished Spider-Man, boom, Miles Morales came out. So I got to play another Spider-Man game right after I finished the first Spider-Man. Again, hit 100%. Got the platinum one there, and again I had to use the animated like Into the Spider-Verse costume, and I just think you'll see the gameplay is just so gorgeous that I had so much fun in those suits. And gosh, New York, that looks so good, and it made me crave going back to New York so bad. But those games were fantastic. And then the last 3 games of the year, they were Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Kingdom Hearts 3. These games have been amazing. I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when I was a little kid. I had it for PlayStation 2, and I just got stuck on Tarzan's level. I couldn't do it. I couldn't beat it when I was younger. And so this was, before the internet was super, easy to navigate through, and you could get all information. And so it was challenging, and I wasn't able to do it. Well, I beat Kingdom Hearts 1, and then I instantly popped in Kingdom Hearts 2 right afterwards. And then after Kingdom Hearts 2, I was like, oh, maybe I'll give myself a break, go play maybe Uncharted 2, one of these other sequels, things like that. Nope, had to go straight into Kingdom Hearts 3. This story is so crazy, and it can overwhelm you. Don't worry about it. Just go play the beautiful Disney scenes of different Kingdom Hearts games and enjoy, hack and slash and beating things up and using magic and just taking all the pretty scenery and all the Disney and Pixar movies, and you'll have a great time. So yeah, I'm sure I'm missing some of the games that I beat this year, but I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing the different games I played and seeing the variety. Like I said, it was the most influential year to me. Kingdom Hearts were my first JRPGs that I ever finished, and because of that, my buddy for my birthday ended up getting me a Kingdom Hearts Keyblade here. So really cool. Super pumped that I had that. Thank you, Ben. Subscribe to their channel on Twitch or follow them. Super Beamer Brothers. Love them so much. And yeah, I mean, my first JRPG, and I loved Kingdom Hearts so much. Resident Evils. If you could see here, I now have all of the Resident Evils because I'm now addicted to them. I think that they're fantastic games, and I'm so into PlayStation now. I mean, I had been on Xbox for such a long time. I was on PlayStation originally as a kid, and then came to Xbox with Halo, and now I'm back on PlayStation, and it was such a crazy year. I mean, the emulation PC opened up so many games to me. I can play so many retro games, and I just have so much fun with that. But then the PlayStation VR was just unbelievable. Doing the racing simulator. I also have flight stick, so I do flying games as well in VR. It's like, how do you have these simulators in your home? It's been an amazing gaming year. I know 2020 was really hard for a lot of people, but I'm so grateful for everything. I'm grateful for starting this YouTube channel. I'm grateful for starting the Twitch channel and the community that we started building there, and just having so much fun with this. Stay tuned for this year. We're going to be knocking out tons of games. It's going to be super varied. And if you have any suggestion for games that you think I would love, or things that I need to try, something that maybe wasn't on that list, even style wise, if there's a game that, game style that I didn't even mention or try, throw it in the comments. Reach out to me, follow me on Instagram, and you can reach out in the DMs in there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a long video, and there's just the games that I completed, not the games that I played. I played a whole bunch more but didn't finish them. But yeah, and let me know what games you played and what was your most impactful games. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Go hit up the Instagram, go follow on Twitch. If you like the YouTube, comment, share it. Thanks. I appreciate you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed this. Another long video.